First, they came for the Pennsylvania Amish farmers, and then they came for the people who provided services to the Pennsylvania Amish farmers. Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and this is probably one of the craziest cases you've ever heard. When Robert Barnes, my partner-in-law at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, says that it's the craziest case he's ever been involved in, it's because it's probably one of the craziest cases you'll ever hear. There are two men who are currently locked up in a prison in Pennsylvania because they allegedly didn't pay a fine for allegedly providing veterinary services, which consists of ultrasounds to cows. They have been locked up now for over 2 weeks, I think, as at the time of shooting this vlog, based on a warrant which you will not believe what this warrant looks like when you see this warrant. In the matter of the State Board of Veterinary Medicine investigative subpoena duces tecum at BPOA, case numbers, and you have some case numbers. Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, petitioner, to the Sheriff of Lancaster County, you are hereby commanded to take into custody the body of Rusty Hare of, and I blacked out the address, Pennsylvania, if he can be found in this Commonwealth, and bring him to the Lancaster County Prison for immediate incarceration because he has been adjudicated in contempt of this court's November 30, 2021 order and has failed to purge himself as directed by this court's order dated May 16, 2023. The proto-notary is directed to send copies of this warrant to the Lancaster County Sheriff and the warden of the Lancaster County Prison at the following address. The Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, whatever the heck that is, issues this warrant, and I'll put it in quotes, warrant, on a piece of paper that looks like they printed it up themselves, and they issue this to the Lancaster Sheriff saying, go and arrest Rusty Hare. The other person is named Ethan Wentworth. Go and arrest these two men, incarcerate them immediately, and bring them straight to prison because allegedly they failed to purge themselves of an order of contempt, and that was to pay a fine allegedly for providing the services of providing ultrasounds to cows, to Amish farmers in Pennsylvania. Allegedly that is now veterinary medicine, and they're practicing veterinary medicine without a license by providing ultrasound services through their company, No Bull Inc. They got a warrant printed on something that looks like it came out of a Hewlett-Packard printer prepared by a child saying, get these men, imprison these men, take them straight to jail, do not pass go, and do not consult with an attorney. The story is absurd. You wouldn't believe that this could happen in a free and democratic society, but apparently we are learning that Pennsylvania is by no means a free and democratic society, but at least the story is finally getting put on blast now. It's made it to the likes of Fox News, or at least an affiliate, and Barnes is on the case. Check out this article. Fox 43, two men jailed in Lancaster and York counties. Attorney claims they are being held illegally. Ethan Wentworth of Airville and Rusty Hare of Christiana have been in prison for about 2 weeks. They're still trying to figure out why. April 25th, 2024, Pennsylvania, USA. Two men are behind bars in central Pennsylvania, and their attorney claims they are being held illegally. Attorney Robert Barnes is representing Ethan Wentworth of Airville and Rusty Hare of Christiana. Recall that Barnes has been actively involved in the case of Amos Miller, an Amish Pennsylvania farmer who has been feeling the full wrath of the Pennsylvania corrupt machine. Amos Miller, who has been persecuted by the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. Well, it seems that the PDA is no longer content going after Amish farmers. They're now going after the people who service the Amish farmers. Quote, I've seen crazy cases. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen, end quote, said Barnes, a constitutional lawyer with Barnes Law, LLP. Wentworth and Hare are former dairy farmers who now operate No Bull Solutions, a breeding company that helps dairy farms with the reproductive management of cattle. For 2 weeks, the men have sat in prison and have been denied bail. Let's take this case at the least favorable for the two defendants, although apparently it does not appear that the two men have been named in any formal criminal proceedings or court proceedings. Let's take it at the least favorable for them. Allegedly, they are providing ultrasound services in the context of cow reproduction, and the accusation is that they are practicing veterinary medicine without a license. They got a fine for doing so. They didn't pay the fine for doing so, and then someone issues this warrant, sends it to a sheriff, and they get taken off to prison. No due process, no consulting an attorney. They are just hauled off to prison for a 30-day sentence without bail. If that doesn't shock your conscience,
it should shock your conscience.
Quote, they're still as baffled today as they were the day they were jailed as to why they're there. What happened? Did they do something wrong? They're still trying to figure that out. Is there some way they can fix it? End quote, said Barnes. Quote, they don't have answers because we don't have answers. They sit in jail today and unfortunately have seen some horrifying things inside, end quote. Barnes took the case after being contacted by one of the men's wives. When Barnes first reported this during one of his Bourbon with Barnes at the vivabarneslaw.locals.com community, I could not believe what he was saying. The next day, I go Google this and I find 2 articles, because that's all there was at the time. 2 articles, one of which consisted of a poll, which I can no longer find, asking the community of Lancaster whether or not they think Rusty Hare and Ethan Wentworth should be jailed for practicing veterinarianism without a license, and the vast majority of that poll said yes, they should. I found another poll, and I think it might have replaced the original one, asking whether or not they should face consequences for what they've done. And what they are alleged to have done is using ultrasound equipment without a veterinary license, and the majority of the respondents said yes, they should. Lancaster Farming: should Rusty Hare and Ethan Wentworth face consequences for using ultrasound equipment on dairy cattle without a veterinary license? 54.8% said yes. 40% said no, 5% said it's complicated. This is the slippery slope to some form of socialism, communism, tyranny, totalitarianism, authoritarianism, whatever you want to call it. People thinking that their God-given rights are privileges, and people getting comfortable with the idea of having every aspect of their lives micromanaged and subject to licensure by the government. It is arguable, according to many, whether or not providing ultrasound services qualifies as providing veterinary services, and whether or not you need a veterinary license in order to provide ultrasound services. It's up for debate. But 55% of respondents, at least those who read the Lancaster Farming, are okay with them facing consequences for having provided ultrasounds in the absence of having a veterinary license. According to York County's chief clerk, Greg Monsky, Wentworth was booked into the York County Prison on April 10 for a 30-day civil sentence. Barnes said he had gone to the York County Courthouse after being notified law enforcement wanted to speak with him, and when he got there, he was arrested. Monsky tells Fox 43 it is likely he will only serve 25 days, as it is typical of the records department to give 5 days as credited served time. Oh, thank you, dear leader. After incarcerating me for absolutely no reason, or at the very least highly suspect reasons, you're going to let me out 5 days early. You're not going to hold me there for the full 30 days in prison for having not paid a civil fine for allegedly having given ultrasound services without having a veterinary license. Oh, thank you so much for stopping with the abuse, dear tyrant. Barnes says neither man was given due process. Quote, the state of Pennsylvania had a judge sign an order of imprisonment for 2 people without ever naming them as parties to a case, without them being charged with any crime, without any hearing before an order of imprisonment was issued, all of which is completely illegal under Pennsylvania law and the United States Constitution, end quote, said Barnes. Quote, we're dealing with an extraordinary situation that I've never heard of before in America. What we have is a Pennsylvania state agency that has gone completely rogue, end quote. And later on in the article, it's explained, and I'll do my best to steelman this in as much as I can, that they were issued a $3,000 fine for practicing veterinarianism or veterinary medicine without a license because they were providing ultrasounds to pregnant cows. They were given a $3,000 fine. Their attorney at the time said, don't pay the fine because this law doesn't apply to you, whatever. And then they were imprisoned for having not paid that fine and not cured themselves of the default of having not paid that fine. So much for the days in America when you would not be imprisoned for not paying a civil fine, and so much for the argument of so many people out there who say, don't worry about it, a fine is not that big a deal, it won't land you in jail after all. Wentworth was served a similar cease and desist order and ordered to pay a $3,000 fine. Barnes tells Fox 43 that neither man paid their fine as their previous lawyer advised them not to. Quote, the advice of former counsel was that these orders did not apply to them because they were not vets and no fines were lawfully ordered, end quote, said Barnes. In 2020, another complaint was filed claiming both Rusty and Ethan kept practicing without a license. At the end of the day, this sounds like competitors who are vets don't like this company providing ultrasound services to cows, to Amish farmers in the area. They don't like competition. So they issue a warrant, printed on a whatever piece of paper, sent to the sheriffs, and the sheriffs, just following orders, go and haul these 2 people off to jail for 30 days, denying them any due process whatsoever. If this is okay with anybody, why don't you just go to China instead of bringing China to America? Fox News reached out to the Pennsylvania Department of State, and because transparency being the cardinal rule of government, they don't take any questions, they just provided a written statement, and I'll end this vlog by reading their written statement. Quote, while the Department of State can neither confirm nor deny the existence of an investigation or matter, speaking generally, the department reviews every potential license violation of which it becomes aware, whether that is through a complaint filed directly with the department, a notification from local law enforcement, or through media reports. After review, a determination is made as to whether formal action is warranted. Formal disciplinary action may include an immediate temporary suspension, an order to show cause, and or a consent agreement. If an investigation and prosecution lead to disciplinary action, the associated documents are made publicly available in PAL's licensing database. if the individual is licensed, or through the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs Protonotary's office. In this instance, please see the quote history end quote sections of the attached adjudications and orders. All respondents are afforded due process, including notice and an opportunity to participate in the proceedings by calling witnesses, introducing evidence, or testifying on their own behalf. Please note that all individuals subject to formal charges have the right to hire an attorney of their choosing. End quote. Well, thank you very much for that platitudinal, nothing of a statement of verbal diarrhea, but it seems that the Pennsylvania Department of State thinks that they're the FBI or the CIA or something. We can either confirm the existence of an yada, yada, yada. You are holding 2 men in prison for 30 days, 25 if you let them out early, because they didn't pay a fine issued by the Bureau of Professional and Occupational Affairs, and you have jailed these men without any form of due process in a prison for a civil fine because they were providing ultrasounds to cows. And someone, probably a competitor vet, said that that qualifies as practicing veterinary medicine without a license. To jail you go. Well, as at the time of shooting this vlog, Barnes has presented a writ of habeas corpus, show me the body, and it's going to be presented the day after tomorrow. As at the time of shooting this vlog, we are certainly going to talk about this during our Sunday night law extravaganza on Rumble, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But this is what an allegedly free and democratic society has come to: the capricious arrest and detainment in prison of people for not paying civil fines that themselves may have been improperly issued. And according to that poll in Lancaster Farming, the majority of Pennsylvanian respondents are okay with this. To be continued, Barnes is on the case, and Barnes is a legal pit bull, a legal bulldog, whatever. Barnes is on the case. We will be talking about it, following up on this, and I will do my very best to put it on blast so that everybody out there who might think that they are okay with this form of tyranny realizes that this does not end with the Amish farmers. This does not end with those servicing the Amish farmers. This is about compelling total compliance from a population. This is about the government controlling every aspect of your life, including what goes in your mouth, what goes in your body, and what goes in your head. So stay tuned, more to follow, but if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure you are getting notifications that you are subscribed to my channel. But more important than anything, get out there, exercise, eat healthy, get sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
Ah! Ah! Oh, yes! Yes!